But welcome to our webinar, Jodie. Do you know what?
Thank you so much.
Understand what we're saying, because I don't know if you get it, but when you interview someone Scottish, you go really, really Scottish.
Yeah, absolutely. But you're much posher than me. You've got a much posher Scottish accent, so you'll be absolutely fine. Plus, this is early for me. I don't normally get out of bed this time on a Saturday morning, so this is early. So I'll probably be more Scottish and than normal. But yeah, you'll be absolutely fine. You've got a beautiful voice.
Thank you. Whereabouts is it in Scotland? It's Glasgow, is it, that you're from?
Yeah, just outside. So I'm actually from Coatbridge, which obviously you'll know. But when people ask me where I'm from, I'm just like Glasgow, because I kind of grew up in the city centre when I was younger, and then moved out to Coatbridge. But then I was always in Glasgow, so I just say Glasgow because I'm like, that's where everybody knows, and it's easier that way. No one knows where Coatbridge is, and to be honest, they probably don't need to know.
I know where it is because I used to work in shipping before TV presenting, and Coatbridge was one of the big shipping ports.
Yeah.
That we used to ship out of. Of course, that was in a previous life. But I get a lot of people saying, "Oh, where are you from in Scotland? Is it Glasgow?" No, I'm up north. I'm Aberdeen, which is a bit more depressing, a bit colder. Which is
richer though, more money.
Well, actually not, because of obviously what's happened with the oil. Aberdeen, relied a lot on the oil industry, which a couple of years ago sort of crashed. And obviously with what's happening with the pandemic, things are not looking too good in Aberdeen. I don't know if you've been there before. It's a very grey.
No, I'm absolutely awful. I'm going to admit this again. I've admitted this a few times on camera, but I've not been further north than Oban.
Oh, really?
In my whole life. I know, it's an absolute disgrace. See, to be fair, I have been living in London for the past 7 years, so there is a wee bit of an excuse, but at the same time, I've not been further. It's terrible, because I love Scotland and I want to see so much more. I'm following all these Scottish travellers on TikTok and all these travel accounts, and I'm like, oh my god, that's my country and I've not seen it. So I'm hoping that one day I'll get a show that gets me to tour around Scotland, so that I get to go to places like Aberdeen and elsewhere, because I've not been anywhere. It's absolutely terrible. It's awful. It's disgraceful. There's not even an excuse for it. It's shocking.
That's my challenge for you, Jodie, is your own travel show going around Scotland. I saw actually on This Morning that Alison Hammond and Josie
Gibson, maybe?
Josie Gibson, I should know because Brian trained her. They were doing a tour around Scotland, and I thought about you. I thought you would have been perfect for that.
Oh, I didn't even know they were doing such a thing. But yeah, no, I would have loved to have done that. Absolutely, of course. But yeah, I'm hoping to get something on some sort of travel show. I feel like if I just keep annoying enough commissioners, they'll just be like, do you know what, just give her that to shut up, just so I can see Scotland.
Well, I'm going to come on to that a little bit later on, because I know how hardworking you are in the industry, and you're really good at just sort of knuckling down and just getting those jobs. But first of all, what made you go into presenting?
So I actually studied musical theatre. So I'd done performing arts since I was really young. So I'd kind of been a drama queen since a young age. And then I left school and went straight into my degree at 16. So I started my degree there, did 2 years in Scotland, and then a year in England. The year in England was actually with 4 of my best friends, 4 Scottish girls, in a 3-storey, 5-bedroom house. It was absolutely the best year of my life. It was amazing, got our degrees, and it was great. And then after that, I kind of finished my degree at 19, so it was like, okay, I've kind of got my degree now, what am I going to do? So then I was kind of home and back and forth to London, up and down for auditions, and I wasn't really getting anywhere, and I was kind of getting to a point somewhere, and then just kind of nothing was really happening. And then I was really torn, because I was like, I don't know whether I should move to London. At that point, it felt right for me to do that. So I had a kind of couple of years of slithering back and forth, and then I moved to London a year or so later. And then I came to London, and it was just like, oh my god, this city is mental. It's so expensive. How am I going to live? And I was just kind of doing odd jobs, bits and bobs, lots of promo jobs and everything like that. And still sort of going to auditions, but not really knowing what was kind of going to happen. And then I had done some TV, I was like a contributor on a show, and I just loved the way that the team were with everybody. And I was like, wow, TV is really nice. Everybody's really lovely, compared to a musical theatre background where it's quite catty and, cutthroat, and you have to sell your soul to get anywhere and all that sort of narrative. And I was like, TV's lovely. And the kind of researcher that was looking after me, I was like, she's so nice. I would love to do her job, like what she's doing, like kind of hosting people, looking after them, making sure they're all right. I was like, I would love to do that. And so then I started looking into jobs in TV. And obviously everybody tells you to start off as a runner. So I was just kind of looking to just any sort of way to get into it. I didn't have a clue how to get into TV. I'd obviously done some acting and singing and performing, but I didn't really know a straight way to get into television. And I'd always loved presenters like Jodie McCallum, obviously Lorraine Kelly, Gemma-Leigh, Paul Grady. Like I'd always loved those sorts of presenters and always just felt like such a warm connection to them. That's probably why they're so good at their job, and like Ant and Dec and all the kind of ones that we know. So people had kind of mentioned it before, like kind of put it out there, like maybe you should try presenting. And I was like, I don't really know what that is. But funnily enough, so I'm really into psychics and tarot readers and all that, right? I'm really, really into it all. I totally love it all. I'm like obsessed with it. And I know sometimes you need to take what they say with a pinch of salt. So I don't take everything they say as like, that's going to happen. But my mum went to one that was really good when I was a wee girl, and she told her that I was never going to be a famous like actress or singer, but I was going to be the next Jodie McCallum. And obviously at the time I was like, what does that even mean? Like I'm 10, like what the hell? Who's Jodie McCallum? What are you talking about? And then obviously that just always kind of stuck in the back of my head, because these things that psychics do, they do stay in my head, because I'm like, that's weird people are mentioning that about presenting, because remember that psychic what said that once, like, oh my god, is it fate? Like I'm very much that sort of person. And so then I went to a Channel 4 for talent day. So they were the only kind of place I could find that was like, kickstarting careers for people in media, and they had this big open day in London where you could go along and kind of just see where you might fit within the industry. And they had loads of different workshops and stuff, and I kind of emailed them before, and I was like, I don't know what workshops to pick, like what do you think? And they were like, definitely 100% presenting, like do the presenting workshop. And I was like, right, okay, I'll give it a go. I don't think I'm going to be able to do it, but I'll try. And funnily enough, I had to read from autocue, and I had to pretend I was on a red carpet, which is kind of like actually my actual job now, which is mad. So obviously pre-pandemic, but so yeah, and I had to do it, and I had to read from autocue, and I've not got the best eyesight, so I was really worried that I wouldn't be able to read the autocue, and I was like, what if I can't read it? If that, then that's it. But obviously I could, and I think the video is absolutely terrible. I might share it one day if I get really, really successful, but it's absolutely awful. I'm bright red, I'm absolutely terrified, but they loved it, and they chose me as the best presenter of the day. And then I got really nice encouragement from the 4 talent team, and it was them really, Channel 4 are to blame, it was them really that pushed me into this, and they were like, do you know what? We think you've got something here, and I think you should go for it. Like, go away, get some experience, build a show reel. There's a job opening up in about a year's time. And I'm like, a year? My God, that's so long away. And they were like, no, just get some experience and then keep in touch. And then I just basically did. And every interview that I did, everything that I did, I just sent it to them, and they were like, oh, thanks. And then when the job opened up, I then was back to them. I was like, right, I've went away, I've completely changed everything I'm doing because I want to have this job with you. And luckily, they felt like I'd worked hard enough, and they felt like I was the right person for the job at the time. And then that was my first professional presenting job, and telly was with Channel 4, which was quite massive considering, how hard it is to kind of get a paid job in the first place.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So you did exactly what they told you to do. Go away, get experience. You kept them updated, which is one of the things that we tell our presenters to do. Keep people updated when you've got something to tell them. Give them that show reel or give them that extra clip. But where did you find all the work to get that experience? Because it's very hard when you don't have a show reel to get experience. It's one of that things that you're going around in circles.
Yeah. Absolutely. So what I will say is the work is not going to come to you, especially like the work now still doesn't come to me. Every job that I've got in television hasn't landed on my lap. I've went out there and I've got it. So the jobs won't land on your lap. It's just they won't. But where I started is I started doing student productions. So get into student productions because they've got an amazing range of equipment, and they're always looking for presenters to come in and present sort of like as live magazine shows, and you don't get that sort of experience as a presenter starting out. You just don't. So it's excellent experience. You get to present in front of an autocue, you get to work with talkback and directors and a crew, and it's not really that far off of what real life actually is like. So a lot of that experience that I learned then doing the student productions is stuff that I still use now today, and it's helped me with proper productions now because it's all the same, it's still all just making telly. So yeah, I'd say get into student productions, and also you can do like on location stuff with them, and then they're always looking for different types of shows because they're always piloting different types of shows. So whether it's dating, whether it's music, you know, they're always looking for different types of presenters as well. So get in with them, speak to your local university, your local college, ask them if they're ever looking for presenters. But one place where I found a lot of these castings was on Star Now. So I'm a big fan of Star Now. I've been on Star Now for years and years, and to be honest, I do neglect my profile a bit now these days. But there's good castings on there, and yes, a lot of it will be voluntary starting out. And where you know, I do think I don't like these internships that go on for a year unpaid and all that. I don't agree with stuff like that. But at the same time, when you're a presenter starting out, you are going to have to get experience. So you are going to have to do things voluntary when you start out. But obviously, know your worth and know when you get to a point where you're like, actually, I'm doing quite a lot of work here and I'm quite experienced at this. Know when to kind of be like, right, enough's enough sort of thing. But I did quite a lot of stuff for like online channels. So they were casting for presenters to front like music interviews and just different bits and bobs. And then I created my own content with a YouTube channel that was creating kind of new kind of content for young people, and that was like a 60-second entertainment news bulletin, which is exactly what I do now. So, you know, I was just kind of trying to create those opportunities and get as much experience on camera as possible. And I actually won a showreel competition as well.
Oh, fantastic.
With Slick Showreels, I know. So Slick Showreels are actually a really cool team if you're looking for a team to help you build a showreel. So I think the director of that company actually won an Oscar randomly. I know it's just like me digressing, but yeah, anyway, he's amazing. And their team is really, really good. So they chose me to win this showreel, and they helped me build a showreel, but it wasn't, they built it around me, and they're like, what do you want in it? And I was like, right, I want a kind of like 60-second kind of showbiz update style thing within that, because I knew that's what I wanted to do. I want me out and about talking to people. I want vox pops. I want a piece to camera. So we built it as if we were building a show almost, and it wasn't just a case of just throw you in front of camera and see what happens. We kind of were like, right, I want to add interviews, and then they added in stuff that I already had, so content I already had. So they added in interviews that I already had with certain people. And then they just built around that basically, and we added in vox pops, we added in piece to cameras, and I think I went out and asked people what it's like to live in London or something. I don't know, just something stupid and random. But as soon as you go out and start like doing a piece to camera on that and start talking about it, it just shows your personality, and then you start talking to people, and then you know your personality naturally comes out. So I did that with them, built the showreel, and then actually going forward, once I got more experience, once I got more stuff on camera, I went back to them and I was like, can you edit? And I paid them to edit my showreels at the beginning because I didn't know how to do anything like that. And so, yeah, it's just a case of getting as much content and much footage on camera as possible, and then putting the best bits of that together.
Yeah, and one of the things that I do highly recommend is, as you said, working with a media university, working with students, because they're not always going to be students. I've done a lot of student productions before, and I've had paid work.
Same.
Students that I've gone in and I've done their end of term project, and they've remembered me because I've hooked up with them on LinkedIn, and I've wrote them a little review just to say like I've worked with them, I've given them a little testimonial. Do you know, and I often think what you put out comes back. I'm quite spiritual as well. Do you know, if you do something good, it'll come back to you. But yes, know your worth. Know that if it is going to be a commercial and that company are making money from it, it's probably not a good idea to do it for free.
Yeah.
I do a lot of charity work as well, especially just now in the pandemic. I've been doing stuff for local businesses just to get them that sort of help that they need. And I do believe that it's, you know, it's going to come back. But one of the things that you're well known for is, for your information, FYI, that's on ITV2, it's on as ITV4. It's one of my favorite I know it's only on for like a minute, but I love the vibe of it. How did you get that job?
I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that that's what I'm known for, because sometimes you just pop up on the telly for 60 seconds and people are just like, oh, we don't get quite a lot of complaints, but people used to moan basically because we interrupt their movies, and then you know how if you're recording it on Sky or whatever, and then we come up in the middle and then they don't get the rest of their movie, and they're like, we missed the rest of our film because of this 60-second entertainment news, which we don't care about, because a lot of people don't care about entertainment news. Like, you'd be surprised. Like, I love it and live and breathe it, and I'm like, give me all the goss. But some people just absolutely hate it. So it's nice to know that there are people that love it, because you know, it is a great wee show and it is only 60 seconds. Part of me sometimes does wish it was longer because there's so much more to say sometimes, but it's a great wee number. It's really fun. It's you know, it's 60-second entertainment news, so we do music, we do films. It just depends on what kind of, you know, is happening that particular day. We get our kind of news stories on that day in our video content, and then we build a package and build a program around that. But yeah, so I got into that because I basically harassed my old boss, who was my boss when I started there, for years. Honestly, years. It must have been about at least 2 years. I like harassed him. So after the Channel 4 day, I was like, right, where can I get some experience? And I was looking to shadow, and I started to look at where are there actually presenters on television? Like, where are there, where the presenters are actually tangible that you could actually get there? You can't look at the big shows and the big things straight away and go, right, okay, that's it, I'm going to be hosting the X Factor next year. And you can't, because it's, well, you know, dream big and all that, but, you know, try and kind of start somewhere that's tangible. So that's what I did, and I was like, I can see myself doing that. I really want to do that. And so I went to like an ITN open day, and then on the day I was like, I really want so I went to a lot of networking events actually as well when I was starting out, which is something I really should start doing again, because you know what, networking is your net worth. Get out there and talk to people. Like, that's honestly the only reason that I have got the jobs that I've got, is because I've been out there and talked to folk. Like, that is genuinely 100% the case. And so I was like, and I said to somebody on the day, and I was like, oh, by the way, I really want to do a job here. I believe it's produced out of this building. Like, can you put me in there? And they were like, yeah, come on, and we'll take you around. So they took me around and introduced me to the right person. Got an email, the all important email, and started, like, you know, making that conversation and saying, this is what I really want to do. And he was kind of like, look, you've not got a lot of experience, but get some experience and let's keep in touch and we'll see what happens. Obviously, he's not going to offer me a job there and then. So I was like, right, okay, but that was fine. And the same thing, I just kept updating. Every time I got a new show reel, I was like sending it across. And then obviously got the job with Channel 4, which was huge. And then that's when my experience really, like, you know, kind of kick-started. And it was like, right, okay, I'm learning on the job. And that's when I kind of probably got significantly better in a short space of time and significantly more experienced. And so, yeah, and then I got that job and kind of kept him in touch. And I was like, oh, that's great. And then obviously once I was finishing up with Channel 4, this is like, you know, now 2.5 years in. And he was sort of like, wow, you're really, really come on, like, your experience is really great. And he was like, listen, there's nothing at the moment, but keep in touch, because there isn't a lot of openings. There isn't a lot of openings in TV. There just isn't. He was like, but let's keep in touch. And then kind of, I think around that sort of Christmas time, he was like, I might be looking for a presenter in the new year, like a freelancer. It's only going to be like 1 or 2 shifts a month, but let me know if you want to screen test. And I'm like, yes, absolutely. Screen tested, and obviously got the job, because I think he kind of knew, like, I'm not going to leave you alone unless you give me this job. So I think he probably just felt like, do you know what, I'm going to make my life easier, just give her this job and just get her off my case. And then got the job.
I love that, because again, this is what we teach people to do. It's networking. It is basically bugging that producer in a as a professional way. And again, I would say 90% of my jobs that I've had is through networking, or is through word of mouth, because I've worked for someone and they then recommend me. And a lot of the successful presenters out there that I speak to, that's the way they do it. And you know, there's that saying, oh, you have to be lucky, it's not what you know, it's who you know. But it's out there for everybody to get. If you want it, it's out there. You can totally get it. Yeah. For your information, although it's 60 seconds, there's a lot of work that goes into that 60 seconds that probably people don't realise. You have to script it yourself, you have to film it, you edit it, you have to then upload it. I mean, tell us about the whole process and how long it takes.
Honest to God, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and we're actually doing it in a kind of different way at the moment, because we're waiting on our new studio being built. So we're actually building it backwards. But I'll talk about it as normal, because to try and explain building it backwards just blows my own mind. It's so hard. It's like one of those things you kind of can't explain. You just have to sit down and do it. I don't think I'd ever be able to teach somebody, because I'm like, you just need to know, like, you just need to sit in front of the computer and figure it out. But yeah, when I started at ITN, I could edit a little bit. I'd use like Premiere, and I'd use sort of like iMovie and stuff for editing my own content. But Avid is such a machine, like, it's huge. And do you know what? Like, what I will say is, I never thought I would be able to edit the way that I can edit right now. But honest to God, believe in yourself, because you will get there with it, because Avid is so difficult, right? But if I can get there with it, I swear to God, anybody can, and my old boss would probably agree, because he's like, oh my god, I was genuinely worried about you because you were so bad. But like, I literally didn't even know how to like in and out, like basic stuff. So yeah, we have to edit it all. We build the whole package, that whole bulletin we pretty much do ourselves. The only kind of contact we have is with my boss, so like my kind of producer, if you like, and I email the script over, and we write the whole script, the 60-second script. I think it actually works at about 51 seconds or something with the bed and stuff. We write that whole script, so the 3 stories, the 3 celeb stories, the straps for all the stories, and then the ticker stories that run along the bottom. So there's like, half the time you probably wouldn't even notice them, but they run along the bottom, and it's just like a little kind of like rolling kind of news thing. We write all them as well, so we source them and write them.
A lot of work.
It is
work.
So we do that, and then we have to edit the ULA, which is like, you know, say it's a trailer, I'm running a new trailer, we have to edit like a clip from that trailer and then into a SOT, which is then like an up sound, so like a sound of something, whatever it is, whether it's a celebrity speaking or it's part of a trailer clip or whatever. So we have to do all of that and build it. Then we do actually have contact with the lawyer as well. We reach out to the lawyer, we send the script all over to them, because they need to check it and make sure it's all fine. And to be honest, there's never been any like kind of, there's nothing controversial. It's, you know, it's entertainment news, so it's fine. But there just might be the odd time where I think I had Blake Lively randomly talk about a dildo, which sounds a bit mad, right? But it was pre-Watershed, and it was a really funny clip. Like, it went viral online and all that. And I was like, I really want to run this clip. It's hilarious. And I think it was like a miscommunication between, like, she thought something that the reporter said was suggesting that it was like a dildo, and it wasn't. And it was like, it was really funny. So it was kind of borderline, but it was okay. So I remember, like, if there is ever anything like that, I'll flag it and be like, I've checked it, the bulletin's only on at 10 o'clock, there's no other like repeats during the day, so it's after the Watershed, like, you know. So sometimes like you kind of want to push it because it's fun and you want people to laugh, you want people to, you know, it's 60 seconds, so you want to get the best out of it for people to kind of actually enjoy it. But yeah, so then we have to then go into the studio and we record, and then we come back out, and then we have to basically build it all together and put it all together, edit it all in post. There's a lot of layers on Avid. So yeah, I mean, obviously now that I've been doing it for years, I can do it with my eyes shut and it's absolutely fine. But it's a lot of, it's probably 90% behind the scenes and 10% in front of the camera, which is just crazy. Like, because you just, looking at it, you'd be like, oh, she goes to her work, she talks for 50 seconds and then she goes home, and it's like, absolutely not. And we do our own makeup, we don't have like a makeup artist, we don't have any of that really, because it wouldn't make sense, because, you know, it's just one person. It's too much of a faff, especially when we're in at the weekends and stuff, and there literally isn't makeup artists around anyway, and you know, it's just us, so it's kind of pointless. It doesn't make sense. But yeah, we pretty much do everything ourselves. But in a way, I'm glad that I have done that, because now I edit all my own show reels, I edit like a lot of my own interviews and stuff like that, and I actually quite like that, because where I can control things, I try to.
yeah. Do you go out to the press junkets as well for FYI? Because sometimes you cut to the press junket.
Yeah.
So that must be interesting. But how do you keep questions interesting? Have you interviewed Tom Cruise? I've got to ask you that. Have you managed
Not yet. Do you know what? Not yet. I've heard very nice things though within the industry. Apparently he's really, really nice and he's really professional, turns up to premieres early and all that. But he's one that I haven't interviewed yet. I want to interview him, but he's on my list. I've got a hit list of people that I want to interview, but not yet. We've not crossed paths just yet, but I have heard he's really nice.
Yeah, he's on my hit list too. But when you do the press junkets, how do you keep your questions interesting? You know, you've interviewed people like Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, and at these press junkets, there's maybe 50 to 100 journalists and presenters in before you. And you know, the likes of Tom Cruise doesn't want the same question. What's it like to be on Mission Impossible? You know, how do you make it interesting?
So I think, like what you were saying there, is I think with junkets, people are just like, oh my god, there's a sit-down interview, and it's so chaotic. The junkets are so chaotic because they're less chaotic than red carpets, but it literally is like one in, one out. And when you're in, they'll be like, right, you've got 4 minutes. So I might have 8 questions, and then that's when you have to just try and, like, you know, run off your adrenaline and go, right, what questions am I going to go for? And it will purely depend on how that person reacts, because I might get a question I'm thinking, oh, that's a wee bit risky, and if they're being a bit funny with me, then I'm like, oh, I don't want to ask that. I might avoid asking that. So you kind of change your questions depending on how the conversation goes as well. So it is just a case of being thrown in there. I think what's been nice for me is the fact that when I go in, I do have an accent, and there is a point of difference, and there is that difference to everybody else in a sense. And straight away, people just love Scottish people. They just do. And sometimes actually what I found hard is trying to get them to stop talking about Scotland so that I can actually get an interview out of them, because I'm like, right, I need to get an interview out of them. I'm going to go back to the office and I'm going to get shouted at. So half the time I'm like, right, okay, I know you love the Highlands, but can I talk to you about this film? Yeah, so in a way that's quite nice. So I go in, there's already a point of difference. They're already like perked up because they're like, oh, that's an accent I've not heard in a while. Where's she from? And also it's probably them just like, oh, I better listen because I need to try and understand what she's saying. So in a way, I guess I've got that point of difference. But when I do these junkets, so I watch the film or I watch whatever it is, or I listen to the music or whatever it is that they're promoting, I'll do that, and then that's how I find my questions. So for example, I just interviewed Jeremy Irvine for Cognition, and that was a film that was about sci-fi and not really my sort of thing, to be honest, but I really enjoyed it. So that allowed me then to ask him, do you believe in aliens? Do you believe in all of that sort of stuff? Like, because you're watching it and it's kind of making you think those sort of things. So I'll take notes as I'm watching a film and be like, right, that's what I'm going to ask. And then with Bill Nye, for example, he was in a romantic comedy called Emma, and it was out on Valentine's Day. So I thought everybody would be asking that question, and nobody did actually. And I was just like, so what's your plans for Valentine's Day? And I was asking all the cast, and they were like, oh, it's out on Valentine's Day. Oh, actually, and that kind of just became like a funny thing between me and Bill Nye, because I was like, I'll take you out on a date if you're not doing anything. I'm free. Like, I've not got any plans either, kind of thing. So it's a combination of taking notes from watching the film or the TV show or whatever it is that they're promoting, and then stalking the person. So I'll stalk their social media. So, for example, with Jeremy Irvine, I'm just using that as my most recent, I saw that he had put a picture up that he was back on a horseback filming, so I thought there might be a sequel to War Horse. So I asked him about that, and then that ended up going in a completely different direction. He actually told me that he snogged Jack Lowden, and I was like, oh my God, that's the line, that's the top line of the interview. And it's from those kind of things. So stalk their Instagram, see what they've been up to. And like with Hugh Grant, for example, I obviously love him in movies like Bridget Jones. I'm a genuine fan of those movies. So when I interviewed him, it's like, I have to ask you about it. I have to ask you, you know, because that's what I know you as. I know you as that romantic comedy kind of heartthrob. So it's also like your own kind of interpretation of that person and stuff. And be a fan. It's absolutely fine to be a fan. Like, you know, don't lie and pretend you're a fan if you're not. But if you are a fan of someone, it's absolutely fine to tell them, because you're still being professional and you're still asking them questions, you know. And I try and, I don't know, I try not to be controversial. I try not to ask questions that are going to upset them or that I know might cause hassle or whatever. Like, for example, when you're on a red carpet, there might be things like when I was interviewing Ewan McGregor on the red carpet, there were like absolutely no questions about his personal life and his marriage. I can't remember exactly what was going on, but I think he was going through a divorce and whatever else, and I just wouldn't. And there are some people that would, but for me personally, I want to treat people how I would like to be treated, and I just think he's there to promote a movie, leave him alone. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know obviously you kind of sometimes want to get that headline, but I'm just not that sort of presenter, and I'm not that sort of journalist that I want to kind of just use people. I don't agree with that. So I'd say, like, kind of push it and be cheeky, and I push it, I very much push it. But, you know, be respectful as well. But I think my top tips would be stalk them on social media, see what they've been up to. If they're not on social media, just stalk them on Google, see what they've been doing, see what they've been up to, see what they've been in the past, and then everything that you can from the movie or the programme that they're in, use that to ask them questions about them personally. That would be my top tips.
Yeah. And go on, Still, who has been the best celebrity and who has been the worst to interview?
Oh God, right, okay, the best celebrity. I mean, I say this every time, but probably Brad Pitt, because that was the first time for me. Like, when I'm interviewing these celebrities, I obviously do get a bit starstruck, but I don't really think about it like that, because I'm just there to do my job, and I'm like, oh my God, I need to get, like, because a lot of the time you're not guaranteed you're going to get them for an interview either. So I'm just like, I just want to get them for an interview. Like, I'm so determined. I'm like, no, I really want to get them for an interview. So I'm not even like, oh my God, it's Brad Pitt, I'm just like, oh my God, I better get him for an interview. But with Brad Pitt, when he was next to me and I knew he was coming to me next, I was just suddenly like, oh my, I just suddenly got all these butterflies, and I've not been like that with anybody before. That was the first time I was properly like, it's Brad Pitt, like, oh my God, like one of the biggest names in Hollywood, like absolutely huge. And that was the first time I was properly like butterflies. And obviously, like, he's so attractive, he's so charming, like he's got that massive like star quality, it just oozes out of him, so you're just like, oh my God, it's a proper Hollywood star. And while Brad Pitt's right next to me, Leonardo DiCaprio was like an arm's length away from me, Margot Robbie's just walked past, Quentin Tarantino's walking around, so you're just like, this is actual Hollywood, like I'm in Hollywood right now, like, oh my God, they don't come bigger than this. So that was probably my favourite interview, because it was the first time I was properly starstruck, and I had such a banter with Brad. But what I do as well is I kind of stalk them before I interview them to see what they're like in interviews. So I knew that Brad Pitt was really quick and sharp with his answers, but not in a kind of nasty way or anything like that. He's just quite quick, like he'll just kind of give you like a one sentence. So I knew he was like that, so you have to be ready to go back and forth with him. And so because I'd done that, I kind of knew what he was like. But then we had such nice banter, and he came over and he was like, I love that Scotland. And I just kind of like was like, Scotland loves you too, because I was just so like, oh my God, I love you, like Jesus. And like Scotland does love him. So yeah, that was probably my favourite. I interviewed De Niro as well, Robert De Niro. That was pretty cool. And then Harvey Keitel was amazing as well, because he was the same. He was just telling me how much he loves like Scotland, and I love that. Sir Tom Jones was lovely as well. I'm trying to think. I'm probably going to kick myself for Julianne Moore. I interviewed her as well. She was really, really nice, lovely. So
there really isn't any celebrity so far that's given you any trouble, or is there? Can you give us a clue, or can you tell us a story?
I wouldn't say there's any celebrity that's given me any trouble so much, but sometimes you just get celebrities that just don't like doing press.
Yeah.
And you can't take that personally, because some people just don't like doing press, they don't like doing junkets, and that kind of annoys me, because I'm like, do you know what, you're getting paid there to sit and talk to people. And fair enough, sometimes journalists do take it too far and probably ask stupid questions, and you think, okay, fair enough, I can see why you find that annoying. But you just need to persevere. And with me, with my kind of cheeky personality, I'll just keep pushing. I'll keep trying to get that warmth out of them. I'll keep trying to do that. And do you know what? See, if you don't get that out of them, that's on them, and you have to kind of just let it go. And sometimes people just won't be as nice as what you think they are, but also people are human. This is what I'm learning. Celebrities are human beings, so sometimes they'll just have a bad day, or they might have just been interviewed by somebody who's been really rude to them, so they come to you a bit off the back foot, and you just kind of have to deal with that. But you just need to not take anything like that personally, and you just don't know what's going on in someone's personal life. You don't know what's happened that morning. You know, they could have a screaming match with their husband, or anything could have kicked off. So yeah, I think I've not had anybody particularly overly difficult, or anyone that's kind of put me down or been rude to me or anything like that just yet. But I definitely have ones where it's like I've had to work a bit harder to pull it out, and I've been like, oh, and I've thought, oh, I'm going to watch that back to see how it appeared, because I didn't seem like I got as much out of them. But then when you watch it back, like, it's absolutely fine, you know. So sometimes you just panic, but no, I can't say, like, I mean, obviously there is a few things that come to mind, but I will never reveal, because you know what?
No, it's not.
People have bad days. People have bad days, and unless someone is actually really just not nice to me, or is just a total diva and just is not a good person, then I would say I've probably heard more stories than actually experienced it. But I like to judge people once I've met them and once I've made my mind up, you know.
Absolutely. There was actually something in the press today about a singer. I'm not going to name who it is, but they got quite bad publicity for this day not smiling and not taking a selfie with somebody. And it is actually someone that I've met, and I know that this person is absolutely lovely. And again, it's just one of that, everybody has bad days. So everything I read in the press, I kind of take it a little bit of a pinch.
Oh, totally. Especially papers, don't, God, do your research. Don't listen to everything that the paper. Do your research. Honestly, God, I can't tell you that enough, because the papers can really get away with a lot, whereas in broadcasting and radio, as you know, you have to be more factual. That you can't just make up things, where a lot of the time in the papers, I feel like they do get away with absolute scandal. And it's a shame how, like, you know, just like, I don't want to get too heavy, but just looking at like Caroline Flack, for example, like that was such a tragedy, and you know, that is, again, just the papers running wild. It has to change, and I hope that it will change. Who knows if it will, but you know, you have to really take what you hear about these people with a pinch of salt and just try and judge people when you meet them, and then make your decision up and make your mind up then. That's what I would say about these celebs, because they're just human at the end of the day. They go to the toilet, they bleed the same as we do. Like, they are just human beings.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually bumped into a Hollywood actress when I was in the toilet over at Pinewood. And you know, when you meet them in normal life and you go, I know that person from somewhere, but I don't know. And I had this lovely chat with this woman. And it wasn't until like later on the day I was Googling, I was going, who is it? And then I realised who it was. And I thought, do you know what? She was just like me. She was just one of me. We've got a few questions that have come in from Instagram, and then in about 5 minutes time I'm going to open it to the floor if anybody's got any questions for you. Well, obviously with lockdown, you know, and it's going to continue, we don't know for how long, and you're doing a lot of, you know, like this Zoom interviews, but I mean, how is that different? You know, you had Hugh Grant in your house on Zoom meeting him.
That's how rumours start. Don't say that. You'll get the papers in a minute. I wish. I can't not. So yeah, I actually had him in my office that day. I was in the office for that one, but so yeah, I'm chatting to celebs over Zoom, and I'm not going to lie, I absolutely hate it. I mean, it's fine, and I'm so grateful for Zoom, because do you know what? If it wasn't for Zoom, we wouldn't be able to do anything. So I am so grateful for it. But I love to meet them in person. I miss the red carpet, so they're completely gone. And God knows when red carpet events will come back, because they're an event and there's loads of people and all of that. So it's not the same as in person and just having that, you know what it's like, that in-person connection. And in the junkets, I miss, because you go in, everything's set up, the camera's set up, you beautifully lit, everything's done for you. So I miss that sense of it. I miss just being with people in person, because I like to kind of see them as a 3D person and really get to know them and actually meet them, you know, and interview them properly. But it's fine, you know, I'm still interviewing celebs over Zoom, and that's fine, and kind of people are used to it now as well. So, you know, if someone's door does go off, or if someone's cat jumps in front of the camera, everyone's just kind of like, it's cool, like, don't worry, like, we're so used to it. So, you know, I'm grateful. I'm still getting to chat to them. I've interviewed quite a few people over Zoom. I've spoke to Gillian Anderson, who's obviously huge mega star, like Hugh Grant, of course, over Zoom, and also who else have I spoke to? Keith Lemon. He was such a laugh over Zoom.
I watched that interview. That was hilarious. But apparently in real life, he's quite shy, I've heard. He just obviously knows how to sort of turn on this performance.
Well, he's Keith Lemon and he's Lee Francis, so it depends really. But I've met him when he's been kind of half and half, and he's you know what, he's a really nice guy. He's lovely. He's actually really, really nice. But he was absolutely hilarious on Zoom. So, but again, it's just, you know, the quality's not as good. Like, you know, sometimes it's not the same as that, and I kind of miss that kind of quality of it. But you know, I'm still cracking on, and luckily the entertainment show that I work with BBC Scotland, that's back on air, because that got taken off air during the pandemic, but that's back on air. And I think TV production now is kind of like realising actually people need entertainment. Let's keep the wheels turning. This is the way we're going to have to do it. Film companies, musicians, everybody's like, you know what, we're going to just need to keep releasing stuff and just do the press over Zoom, because nothing's going to change, you know, overnight. So people are kind of used to it now, which is good, because I'm so glad, because people are not just wanting to watch the news anymore and find out what's going on. They're like, we know what's happening with the virus. We just want a bit of light relief, and that's what we need. We need celebrities and entertainment now more than ever. And I think it's one of those things people kind of put down. They're like, oh, it's entertainment, it's not that important. But this pandemic has shown how important entertainment is. Like, it's so important. It's escapism, and it's just so nice just to chat to the celebs and kind of hear that they're going through the same thing as well, because they're going through lockdown and they're facing, you know, trouble as well. So yeah. I'm not the biggest advocate of Zoom. I miss chatting to them in person. I miss the red carpets, but I'm grateful for it, because otherwise I wouldn't have a job. So that's good. Yeah.
And of course, if anybody wants to catch up on your interviews, they're available. It's called The Edit. It's on BBC iPlayer. It's available now. And also you're quite good at putting little clips up on your Instagram and stuff. Yeah. One of the things I want to ask is, what advice would you be given to presenters or new presenters that are coming in? We're in the middle of this pandemic. Is something like doing Zoom interview, possibly not with, you know, mega stars, but it could be local artists, it could be local comedians, it could be things. Is this one of the things that people could be doing just to keep their career up and going in lockdown?
Absolutely, do as much as you can. The opportunity isn't going to come to you. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but it's not. You have to go out and happen to the opportunity. You have to go out and happen to things. So create your own opportunities. Do this over Zoom. I know people that are doing podcasts from home and they're continuing on, and podcasting is a good kind of way to get interviewing people if you don't necessarily want to do something on camera. But absolutely, like as you would, what I would say is, as you would in real life, you would go out and try and interview people, local musicians or local stars or whoever. Do the same thing and just do it over Zoom, because at the end of the day, it's still footage, it's still video content, and if anything, you're more likely to get someone for an interview now because they're sitting at home doing nothing anyway. So it's actually probably a good time to get in there and try and get people, because people aren't doing anything. And honest to God, you think reach out to folk, well, there's no way they'll do an interview with me, but people love the chance to talk about themselves. So give them the opportunity and just say, look, we'd really love to talk to you about everything that you've achieved in your career. Will you do it? And 9 times out of 10, you'll be surprised that they probably would say yes. So absolutely do that while you can, and you can still build a showreel. You can still build that right now. Now's the best time to be productive. Yeah. But what I will say is, don't put too much pressure on yourself, because you know what, we are in a pandemic. This is a really challenging time on everyone's mental health. So don't put pressure on yourself and think, oh my God, I'm not further on, or I should be doing this, because do you know what? The only thing we all need to do right now is survive. That's it. So as well as you want to kind of move forward and you have to fight for things, chill out as well. Give yourself a break as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, just sort of love ourselves. That's one of the things that I've taken away. But also just to, you know, there's times over the last few months where I've really sort of got to analyse and go, like, what's important in my life and what's not. And I think a lot of people have been doing that. Have you contacted celebrities yourself on like Twitter and just asked them for a cheeky interview? Is that something that you've done?
Not yet, because basically how it works is if I'm kind of doing a junket for like ITM, which is like FYI, that's normally kind of sorted through like the producers and stuff there, who will say this junket's happening on this day, Jodie's on shift, so you're doing that interview or whatever. And then with BBC Scotland, I reach out to the PRs. So I have obviously got quite good contacts with like film PRs, music PRs. So I'll actually reach out to their PR or their agent, or you know, the film company, whoever it is, and put an interview request in, so put bids in for that interview. So that's kind of how I go about it. But if I know someone personally and it's someone I want to get on the show, then I have sent DMs before, but 9 times out of 10 you just go through the proper channels, because they're being managed by that particular person. Like if it's ITV, for example, I would just email the ITV press officer and ask them, can we get, you know, Keith's got a new show coming out, could we get him for an interview, as opposed to DMing him, because if anything, he's probably going to say, oh, I don't know, like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's not necessarily up to them, they're just kind of doing their job. So you kind of have to go through the people that are arranging it, whoever's making the programme, whoever's making the film, whoever's doing the PR for the film, whoever their agent is, however their contact is. But, you know, I've definitely emailed people sent a cheeky DM every now and then for advice and reaching out, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But bear in mind, like celebrities and people in the public eye are busy, so a lot of the time they don't get back to you. You can't be disheartened with that. I mean, I'm a nobody and I don't get back to people. I'm absolutely terrible. So I will just say publicly, I want to publicly apologise for anybody that's emailed me or messaged me for advice and I haven't got back. It's not that I hate you or that I'm rude or that I don't want to help you. It's just that we've all got lives and we're all busy, and sometimes we just forget, and then that DM disappears and you're like, oh my God, I've never got back to that person. But you have to kind of
realize that DMs disappear, you know, because sometimes I'll say, right, I will reply, but I've got a busy week, and sometimes I'll just take one day a week to get back to people, and then all of a sudden the DM, if I'm not following them, it disappears, and I think, oh gosh, I hope they don't think
you're all right. Yeah.
Couple of questions that have come in through Instagram. First of all, we've got Brad. I'm not sure if Brad's on the webinar. He said, what's the best way to market and brand yourself in 2020?
Social media, 100%. I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with social media, because I do think it's having a detrimental effect on all of our mental health, because it's just become so much a part of our life. So I have this kind of love-hate relationship with it. But what I would say is getting yourself out there, absolutely social media, Twitter, Instagram, they're the two that I would say are the ones that you want to build a profile on, probably more so Instagram. But yeah, I'd say social media is the best way. I've got a website and stuff like that as well, but I would say the best way to market yourself and put stuff out there is social media. For example, if you go onto my Instagram, you can see exactly what it is that I do. You know that I'm a presenter. You can see that there'll be clips of different interviews. So just make sure you're putting that up. Don't get me wrong, I'll put personal stuff up as well. But 9 times out of 10, it has a lot to do with my work. And on my Instagram stories, I try to be as
Oh, we seem to have lost Jodie. Jodie, come back. Oh, we lost you.
Did you lose me there?
We lost you for about a minute. Well, not a minute, God. Maybe about 10, 20 seconds.
That's probably Zoom telling me to shut up. Anyway, in a nutshell, what I was saying was social media, Instagram and Twitter. That's the two I would say. Market yourselves, get your into.
Oh, we seem to have got a pause from Jodie again. I don't know if it's me or if it's you. Oh, here we go. Yeah, to go on with the social media, I know from you know, what Helen and Agent Karen says, that social media is so important, and often producers and casting directors, they'll go on to social media first before they'll even reply to your email, because they want to get to know the real you. So if, for example, you are looking to get into children's presenting, I'm using that because it's one of the examples that Helen uses. So if you've got anything that's not suitable for TV, or there's too much of cocktails and nights out, it's not going to put you in the best stead for an interview or a casting to get into children's TV. So just bear in mind, one of the things that Helen says is, if you won't put it on a shirt, don't put it on social media.
Yeah, keep it clean, guys. Keep it clean. But also, that kind of, I get that, I do, and I know that you have to kind of be really careful, especially with, you know, if I'm kind of working on a news show or whatever, I need to be careful with my views and impartiality and all of that as well. But I do think, be yourself, because some of the best presenters, you know, it's because they've got the personality across on social media. But just try not to offend anybody. Try not to, you know, cause a star or do anything offensive. Basically, that's what I would say. Be yourself, but just try not to be offensive. Like, and try and keep it as clean as possible. But don't rigid yourself and put yourself in a box. I still swear on my social media, because I'm like, you know what? I do swear, and that's it. And I'm you know, if people follow me, you know, the followers that I have, I think my analytics are like between 18 to 35 anyway. So I'm like, well, there's not many kids following me anyway. You know, that's not what I want to do. So, you know, still be yourself and have a laugh, but just keep it clean.
Yeah. Ethan's asking, what is your long-term goals? I assume he's asking, like, there must be a show that you think, I mean, maybe you want to just keep that to yourself, but, or do you have like a vision board, or, you know, you were saying you've got the hit list for the celebrities, but
yeah, do you know, I really, with the vision board, and I normally do vision board, but I'm so undisciplined with it and the manifesting and all that, and I need to get back into it. But yes, Ethan, that's a great question. I have long-term goals. I want my own show, and that's the kind of long-term goal for me, really. I want my own show, and I want to be as successful. So Davina's my absolute idol in life. I absolutely adore her, so I want to be on that level. That's kind of where I want to be within my career, to be kind of, at the moment, I want to be someone that people reach out to instead of me reaching out to them. That's kind of the goal I'm working towards right now. I want people to come and reach out to me.
Well, I reached out to you. So.
I know, exactly. Starting there, we're getting there. But yeah, ideally, I'd love to have my own show. Like, obviously, Lorraine, you know, Queen of Daytime, like something maybe along those lines, like a daytime show, but maybe in the afternoon, because I hate mornings, and kind of maybe a mix between like Lorraine and like the Ellen DeGeneres show. So somewhere in amongst that, where it's celebrity, real people. So to have my own show, but that's the kind of main goal, but also just to be a successful presenter and actually really, you know, have a career and be a household name and be someone that people respect. And not everyone's going to like you, so you can't have that, but just be someone that's like, oh yeah, I know her. But I think my dream is to be like known just as Jodie. You know how like Davina's known as just Davina and Lorraine's known as just Lorraine. Like, I think that's kind of like a big goal for me, is just to have that kind of like one name, and then it's like Jodie, that's Jodie. She doesn't need a last name. Like, do you know what I mean?
Well, actually, you were very close to doing that, because back in 2018, you filled in for Lorraine when they were doing the test. I mean, tell us about that. That must have been amazing.
Oh, it was just incredible. But it was kind of weird because obviously I know the team there. So I used to work at Good Morning Britain, which is why I've got a Good Morning Britain mug. So I used to work in the green room at Good Morning Britain, green room hosting, which was such a great job. And so I'd kind of done a few shifts on Lorraine, like doing the same kind of job down there. And obviously when you're on Good Morning Britain, Lorraine's on at the same time. So you kind of end up working with that team. So I knew a lot of the production and a lot of the crew and everybody there, so they kind of knew me anyway. So what just happened is I'd just come back from Australia and I was still sort of jet lagged and all that, and my friend messaged me that worked at ITV and said, look, we need somebody to sit in for Lorraine, can't think of anybody better. I just don't really think it's going to be that exciting because it is just about sorting the lights and stuff. Do you want to do it? And I was like, oh my God, you need to ask. Absolutely, absolutely. And for the first couple of days, it was just a case of sitting in and not even talking. It was just sitting in, fixing the lights. It was nothing. But then kind of on the last couple of days, we got to do like as live rehearsals, and it was like doing a proper show, and I was getting like scripts sent to me. Like I was reading the script 10 minutes before we were actually recording. It was crazy, and I had to like pretend to interview Bryan Cranston and stuff like that, and he wasn't even there. It was like actors. It was just mental. But what an experience to sit in her sofa, and you know, I kind of wish I had got better clips and stuff from it, because obviously I was just cold reading from auto cue and stuff like that. You know, the plan was being made up as we went along, but I did manage to get some things from it, and just to get to sit in her chair, like, what a bloody honour. It's Lorraine, you know, she's an absolute queen. She's the queen of daytime. That is the job that I would love to do. I'd love to one day have the absolute honour of properly sitting in for her. But it was mad because I was doing it as live as Christine Lampard was actually doing the show that was going out on ITV. So it was like I was actually doing it at the same time, and it was like, oh my God, I'm doing the same job, like this is crazy. And it was such, and they're a lovely team, and it was lovely, and I love her studio. It's so warm, and it was like a proper pinch me, like, oh my God, I've just sat in for Lorraine. And obviously it didn't actually go out on ITV, it didn't actually go out there, but you know, just even having that experience.
Fantastic footage, and it's the whole experience, as you say. I've read a few of Lorraine Kelly's books. I don't know if you have, but one of the things she says in her book that was, I definitely would recommend it. You can get it on Amazon. It's one from, I think it was released in 2008. I can't remember the title of it, but it's pink. Well, actually, both of her books are pink. One's called Shine. It's not that one. It's the other one. And she says that people told her she would never make it because of her Scottish accent.
I know.
And look at her now, you know, award-winning. You know, it's amazing. Has anyone ever actually said that to you?
Do you know, funnily enough, you say this, I'm glad you say this. I'm glad you brought this up, actually, because it's not so much. So starting out, it never used to be an issue. It never used to be something that I even thought of, because people love it, and people do love my accent. They do love a point of difference. But I find people that are also in the industry, not everyone is, but there are people that are jealous of you, and there are people that are like, I don't want you to get further ahead than me and everything else. So they will use that as a point of like, oh, we can't understand a word she's saying. I've had people say things that about me like that, like, you know, can't understand a word she's saying, can't believe she's on the telly with that accent, and things like, we'll need to get subtitles for her, and you know, can you just be less Scottish? Can you tone that? You do get that a little bit. Like jokingly, people will say that, and it's very rare. It's very, very rare. But luckily, where I work and what I do, people love it, and they celebrate my accent. And sometimes I'll type certain things in my script. I'll say the word gander, and I'll throw it in, and my boss will be like, no idea what that means, but it will make sense when you present it in your accent. I know for a fact it will, and that's great. And Channel 4 were a big champion of that. They were a big champion of, don't apologise for being Scottish. Be Scottish. People will attune to you. People will learn to understand you. Just you be yourself. And kind of that is instilled in me from then. And do you know what? I'm Scottish. I'm so proud to be Scottish. I can't not be Scottish. I can't take this accent off. So if I don't get a job because of that, then what can you do? There was a job I applied for recently, actually, and it was entertainment news, and I'm not being like kind of arrogant or anything, but I'd be absolutely perfect for it, right? But they just wanted Americans, and you can't do anything. So half the time, sometimes it's not even about you. That's what they want. They want someone American. I am not American. So what can you do? You have to just accept that, you know?
Yeah, no, that's it. And even Lorraine gets that nowadays. You know, and I think it's absolutely awful. But if you do have an accent, or you have got something different about you, yeah, celebrate it, because you are unique. Nobody else is you. Celebrate yourself. So yeah, the best advice. Has anybody got any questions? Either raise your hand, or pop them in the chat, and we'll get round to asking some of your questions. Andrea, morning Andrea. Andrea's one of our regulars on our webinar. She says, what do you use to edit clips when you're doing it for yourself? Have you got a script editor? So I know you mentioned Avid earlier, but when you're doing your own show reel, is there something a little bit more simpler?
No, so I do use Avid for my own show reel as well, but I use iMovie a lot. So some of my packages that actually go out on like BBC Scotland, I use iMovie. I edit some of the packages for that on that. iMovie is really intuitive. You can actually you can add like clips on top, you can add cutaways, you can separate the sound. So I've got a package that's going out on BBC Scotland tomorrow, and it's got like music and stuff in it, upsots and all that. And I edited it all in iMovie, and you know what? I look at it and I'm like, that's a really nice package. It's lovely. Yeah. So you don't have to buy the expensive software. Obviously, if you can get into Premiere or Final Cut, then absolutely, because it's good to learn them anyway. But iMovie is absolutely fine. It's very intuitive. So that's what I use when I'm at home, just especially editing Zooms or editing my own content. I'll just use iMovie. And then if I'm at work or whatever, I'll use Avid. But iMovie is really good.
Great, there you go. John Higgins, hello, he's putting his hands up. Morning, John.
Morning, thanks again for this, Gemma. Jodie, good morning. I have just a little question about the whole issue of networking, because I'm actually an established journalist and film critic now, and I'm now sort of at the moment just doing festival reviews. I'm just finishing off some stuff for the Los Angeles International Film Festival. My question is if I wanted to sort of approach people in the context of festivals, because I'm kind of in on the PR thing now and doing that stuff, who would I, if I was to say at an event, if obviously with red carpet events were happening, who would I be able to talk to without making myself, you know, imposing myself? Who would you suggest I should talk to?
Well, it depends on if it's the film festival specifically. So say, for example, it was the BFI London Film Festival. What you would do is go to the BFI website and look for the press officer. So always look for the press officer. So what I do is, like, if there's a, for example, if there's like an ITV show out or something like that, I will type in ITV press office contacts, and then whoever that person is, I'll email. And sometimes you might find that's not necessarily the right person, but you'll say, if you're not the right person, could you point me in the direction of the right person for this? So always, always, always go to the press officer, the PR 100%.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because there's a lot of momentum now, because I'm actually working with a PR company to promote Oscar-nominated filmmakers, and my coverage has actually helped it. So it's now getting to the point where, okay, so I'm in the zone. I mean, that's actually very useful. I want to thank you for that anyway, because I'm actually just become the press coordinator for the Paris International Film Festival. So I'm now... So we're doing a lot of contacts. If you go onto filmandtvnow.com, which is the website I write for, I actually do that. So I'll look into that. But thank you very much. That was my question anyway. So I'm going to let you go. But thank you very much.
Oh, well, listen, I'll probably be in touch with you, asking you if you're dealing with the Paris press. I'll be like, oh, okay, can we get in on that film festival? But yeah, the PRs, the press officers, they're always the people, and you'll find as well that there's a lot of companies. So like Premiere, for example.
Yeah, I know.
Like all of them, all those ones, they kind of get in touch they kind of deal with a lot of the premieres and stuff like that as well. So, but what I'd say is, if it's a particular film you want to reach out to and you don't know where to start, go straight to the production company. So if it's Lionsgate, if it's Universal, just literally type in, you know, Warner Brothers press contact, and sometimes it's like a generic email, but it will get you to the right person. So just literally whatever it is you're looking for, look for the press officer, press contact, and you'll always find them.
Yeah, well, I think I seem to have already got there anyway, because I do have a lot of PR people sending me reviews for interviews.
There you go, that's perfect. So, and that's how it works as well. The more you do, the more media alerts. Just keep saying to them, can you make sure I'm on your media alert list? Can you make sure you're sending me through your press releases and stuff like that? Okay,
great. Thanks very much, Jodie. I think that solves something for me. But thank you very much.
No worries. Thank you.
Fantastic question, John. Over to Sarah next. Sarah, I think we've got one Sarah on the call. You might have to unmute yourself, Sarah, with the red.
Hiya.
Hello, Sarah.
Well, thanks so much for this morning. Thanks, Jodie. So, from like a fellow Scot, I had like a bit of a Scottish question.
Yes, fine.
I live in London and I have done for about 10 years, but I often do wonder. A lot of people have said, you know, the industry's much smaller back home. If you get in, it's good. Would you recommend continuing the London journey, or would you recommend trying to hack into that Scottish market?
this is something that I lose sleep over all the time. I'm exactly the same. I'm totally the same, because probably like you, I'm kind of tired of London. London's a kind of scary place at the moment, particularly in the world that we're living in. And obviously it's a lot of money, it's a lot of rent, it's extortionate. The house prices back home are so much better. I miss my family, I miss my friends, I miss having a social life. I miss all of that. So I constantly go back and forth with this. I guess you've got to really just weigh up the pros and cons, maybe write a pros and cons list. And I know that sounds really patronising, but just kind of weigh it up and see where you're at. And actually, you know, everybody that kind of sees what I'm doing back home is like, oh my God, I want her life. And I'm like, oh, but I want their life. And actually the grass is always greener, you know, so you've got to think what's best for me. I'm so grateful that I've managed to sort of get into Scottish media more with BBC Scotland and stuff, because although I've been presenting on national telly for a while, no one really knew who I was in Scotland. So I kind of made a point of like, I want to get into Scottish TV in some way, even though I'm still based in London covering the red carpets and stuff, but I'm then still presenting on Scottish television, which is amazing. So what I'd say is look at the opportunities that are there, see what opportunities are back home. And you know what, see if it is something that would take you back home and it would get you in, you've got to weigh that opportunity up and go, well, because what I'm starting to think is, you know, in terms of money, the money's going up back home, but it's not necessarily going up here. So I'm starting to think it's quality of life as well, and it's your mental health, and it's all of that. So I'm constantly toying with it. But what I would say is, look, see what's out there, see what's back home, apply to things, just put the feelers out there and see what you could maybe get into, see if there is any productions or any shows that you're like, do you know what, I could work from London, I could cover things for you down here, I could produce content for you here, to just try and get in and get a feel for it. But it's not impossible to get in back home. I know it probably feels like that because it is so close, and there isn't as many jobs, and people stay in jobs for the rest of their life back home. But there is opportunity, and there is chance to get in. It's obviously just a difficult time at the moment, but just look at all the different production companies, and there's loads of production companies in Glasgow now. There's lots of production happening. But definitely follow me on social media and stuff, and I can maybe put you in touch with some people that I know back home that might be able to help you and kind of put you into the kind of Facebook groups and all that post jobs and stuff. What is it that you want to do?
So I've trained as an actress, but I've presented for quite a few years. So I've done like Tea in the Park, I presented at that, and I've done quite a few like student shows like you were talking about, magazine shows, but it's just trying to get that next thing.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting, because at first when you came on my radar, I thought you were in Scotland, so that's really good to know that you got that from being in London.
Yeah.
And I guess, sorry, I'm squeezing in a wee bit more.
That's all right, go.
I guess I really appreciate that. I'll definitely drop you a message, but sometimes it's tricky just to find the right person that you're trying to contact. Have you got any tips for that?
Do you know what, I've realised that I'm actually properly like becoming a proper journalist, because I am such a digger. Like that's the bane of my life. See, trying to find the right person to reach out, like we were just talking about, we're trying to find the right press officer, trying to find the right contact so I can get in touch and ask about who to get, you know, interviews for a film or whatever. That's the bane of my life. That takes up most of my time, is trying to find the right person. It is one of those where you just need to dig. You need to become a bit of a detective. You have to kind of. Social media is a great tool. You can find out everything on social media. So kind of look at it there. And then also, like, so if you're watching a program and you're like, I really want to get involved in that, go to the credits and it'll tell you exactly who the producers are. And half the time it's first dot last name at wherever. You can sometimes I figure out the email, or I find them on LinkedIn, I'll find them on Twitter, I'll find them on something. You'll be able to find them somewhere. And if you can, like, literally look at the credits, see who that person is, see who produced that. If it's a particular show, like say it was location, just for talking's sake, I don't know why that's come into my head, but just say it was that. Type that in and be like production company, and then you'll find out, oh, that was actually, you know, Firefly, or I can't remember actually who it is that produced it. And then you can then go, right, well, who's the production manager within that company? And then you can kind of find it out. So be a bit of a detective, but you can definitely find things from the credits and kind of the production company and who actually produced it, who was in charge, and try and go to the production manager 9 times out of 10. And then if you can, if you're bold like me, go to the editor of the show and go straight to the kind of person in charge. But 9 times out of 10, they're busy people, so they'll likely not get back to you. So kind of maybe go middle ground and find somebody in the middle whose job it is to actually reply to people, and then take it from there.
Yeah, so basically be a detective.
Absolutely, you have to be like Sherlock Holmes.
And the only other thing I was going to ask, see, when I did Tea in the Park, it was a few years ago now, looked a wee bit different. but it's some really good footage. Would you recommend to still include that in my show reel, or do you think it would look too dated?
No, still include it. Like, obviously I update mine quite a lot because I end up doing more stuff and end up doing more interviews, and I kind of struggle to fit everything in, to be honest, because you don't want your show reel to be kind of over 3 minutes. Really, that's the kind of maximum you want it to be, and you want kind of the first 1 minute to be your absolute best stuff. So that's something I struggle with, to cut it down. But no, I've got footage in there that's kind of older and stuff like that, interviews that I did from 3 years ago. No, if it's good footage and it's good content and it's you at your absolute best, then keep it in there 100%.
Cool. Thank you so much.
No problem, lovely.
Brilliant question. Another thing is to look at is in Manchester, Media City, there's a lot happening in Manchester. So although if you're living in Scotland, London is quite far away, maybe meeting in the middle, Manchester, it's only a few hours drive. That might be.
I'm in London, so I've been.
You are in London.
Yeah.
Jodie, that's actually a question that we've had from Catherine. You mentioned about you're using your journalistic skills. Have you done any journalistic qualification or courses in journalism?
So my degree is obviously in musical theatre, so I didn't study like kind of media or journalism or anything like that. But when I was at Channel 4, there was a course at ITN. So my boss there that was another thing he said to me, was like, it'd be good if you had some sort of journalism kind of background, because I know you've not got like any kind of anything like credits or anything like that. And I was like, what do I need to do? And then he was like, oh, there's some courses here that they do. And he was like, maybe look into some courses. So I was like, right, okay. So I did my media law at ITN, led by their lawyer, who's like really well respected within the industry. And it was brilliant, because it was like actually, and it wasn't just me, like that was starting out. There was actually like editors of news programs like on that, like just doing a kind of refresher, because media law, it changes all the time. The law's forever changing. There's always like kind of new things within it. So it was great, because I was learning from proper journalists who are in the industry, who are actually doing it. And it was really tough. And I literally locked myself in my room like 3 days before the exams. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to fail. And I passed it, and I got it, and I learned a lot. So I've got like an NCTJ in media law, and obviously it was run by ITN, so it was run kind of where the main news comes out of. So I guess I kind of had the best of the best training, really. So yeah, it was a kind of a course that I did separate to like a degree or anything like that. So I'd say you don't necessarily have to go and get a degree in it, but I'd say if you can get into sort of into NCTJ, they've got loads of courses. Have a look at them and see if it's something that you want to. And so you don't need a qualification to kind of get anywhere, because no one's actually ever asked me for my qualifications or my degree or anything like that. It's not something you have to. I think the experience is more important than qualifications, to be honest. They're just qualifications on a bit of paper at the end of the day.
They are, but I think, as you said, I think media law is something that's important, especially if you're going into anything factual or live as well, because broadcasters want to know that you're safe and you kind of know all the legislations. As Jodie said, the MTJ, they do modules, they do a distance learning course, and it's quite affordable. We're actually running over. I hope that's okay, Jodie. Just time for...
No, it's me, I'm the problem.
We've got Emma Boulin. Morning, Emma. Oh, we can't hear you. There we go.
Hi. There we go. Hello, hi. This is the first of these like Saturday morning things. So this is really, really cool. So thank you so much for this. I'm in my final year of uni, and obviously being in uni at the moment is insane, because it's all kind of kicking off and stuff. What is, because obviously at the moment there's like a lot of pressure to find like grad schemes and to find like a secure job, as it were, when you're like going into like the real world type thing. What sort of either grad schemes, or what kind of role is good to look for that is also somewhat supportive, like financially in a way, or is it better to kind of go for something like a runner and to also have a part-time job at the same time, just to support yourself for like financial reasons?
No, well, what I would say is, if you're going to get a runner job and it's full time, I think that wage should be decent enough for you to live, because you're going to be doing a really hard job, and the job of a runner is really, really difficult. So I would say don't go into a runner's job if it's absolutely horrendously paid and you're kind of working for not enough money or whatever. But go to For Talent, head to For Talent. That's where I kind of started out. They've got loads of apprenticeships, they've got loads of grad schemes, they've got loads of different opportunities. Go to them because they've got kind of like 1 year apprenticeships and stuff like that, where you actually get paid, and you start off in like a kind of junior role, like a researcher or a production coordinator, and they train you up. So I would definitely get all over them, look at them. I'm pretty sure ITV and the BBC, they all have like kind of the same opportunities, like they have their kind of same version of For Talent. But definitely have a look at For Talent's website, because they've got loads of opportunities. And have a look at like the ITV Careers website, the BBC Careers website, because they've got their own versions of it as well, and look at what opportunities are there. But don't put yourself under unnecessary pressure to get into a grad scheme or get into a job at the moment, because do you know what, the world's really, really difficult. It's really, really hard. So even if you can just get something that's part-time in television at the moment, or freelance for a bit, that's absolutely fine. You know, even just trying to get in and get some shadowing work and stuff like that at different programmes. I know at Good Morning Britain they have kind of like programme assistants that are freelance. I mean, I don't know definitely right now, but when I was there, they did have, and they had freelance people on it because I worked there as a freelancer. So maybe just reach out to people like that and just say, look, are you looking for any freelancers? Could I come in and do some shadowing? Because do you know what? A lot of news companies are actually looking for help right now because they're so busy, because obviously they're trying to cover the pandemic. So it might be that production in general is kind of slower, but news and all that still going 100 miles an hour. So get in touch with the newsrooms, get in touch with them and say, can I come in? Can I come in and do some shadowing? Can I come in and can I help? Is there anything I can help with? And even if you can just pick up some freelance shifts, it's a good place to start. But definitely go onto the For Talent website because they've got loads of great opportunities.
Yeah, that's really good. Thank you so much. And
no problem.
Do you get any so as a presenter, do you get the opportunity to do stuff for radio, or do you get the opportunity to do stuff for like production stuff, or are you quite like focused on your TV presenting?
So I am sort of now, but yeah, no, I've done loads of production, so I've done loads of stuff behind the scenes. As I say, I used to work at Good Morning Britain, hence why I've got one of these mugs. I used to work in the green room hosting, so looking after all the guests that come in, making sure everybody was all right, making sure the presenters are all okay, all that sort of stuff. So, and I loved it. I loved working in production. I worked as a production assistant, a programme assistant on Good Morning Britain there as well. So I would do all the scripts and kind of like basically like a glorified runner's job, kind of doing that. So I have worked in production and I do love it, and I kind of produce my own content as well at ITN, so I am kind of like my own producer, so I do like that side of things as well. So definitely get into production where you can, and the more skills you have as a presenter, the more likely you're going to get hired, because you need to be able to edit now, you have to be able to create your own stuff, you have to be able to do all of that. So the more you kind of understand the production side of things, the more like you're going to have that knowledge. So yeah, I still kind of do production and stuff like that, and I still love it. And you know, I kind of produce my own content, so I kind of am a producer in a sense as well. So no, I love doing that as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Great advice. And I always recommend people to get involved with their local community radio, their local radio, community TV channels as well. Again, they'll be looking for help. There might be some restrictions, you know, at the moment with them taking on people whilst we're on lockdown, but it's a brilliant way to network and meet people. And even people at the radio station are presenters on different channels, but they're doing it because they love what they do. So it's something that I always recommend people to get into. Last question of the day. Morning to Andrea. Hello.
Hi Gemma. Thanks Jodie for this. I'm just doing or starting to do a few street interviews, right, about different things, obviously the pandemic as well, and I'm just wondering about from my act side of things, when we do these things you have to have a model release form, obviously. Do I need the same thing for the people on the street, or is it some kind of verbal thing you say at the beginning this is going to be used for? Do I have your consent? What's the deal around that?
Yeah, so this is a tricky one, because I used to do some vox pops for brands, so for branded content with a marketing agency that I used to work with, and they were very keen. We would have this all the time, where it's like, should we get the release form signed? What is the actual kind of grey area around this? Because it is a grey area and the law is always changing. Like I said earlier, media law is always changing, so it's a bit of a grey area. What I would say is, if you've got something verbal on camera, that's absolutely fine. That's kind of how we've worked it and how I've worked with professional companies that have gone out, professional broadcasters. Just get the person to say, my name is Jodie McCallum and I can confirm I'm happy to be on camera. I'm happy for you to use this footage. That's absolutely fine. But to be honest, 9 times out of 10, if you're interviewing them on the street and they're quite well aware that there's a camera and it's going to go somewhere, they know, you know, they're taking that onus on yourself. So I think you'd always be covered. I think it would be if it was secret filming or something, then you definitely need to get a release form filmed. But when it's so obvious and it's so clear, it's absolutely fine. I wouldn't worry about it. But if you're having children and the vox pops, definitely get something on paper, 100%. Make sure you get a parent or guardian to sign that. With children, I'd say that's the exception. But with adults, just kind of like, even at the start of the interview, just say, you know, I just want to confirm, just so I've got it on camera, that you're happy for me to do this interview and you're happy to chat to me. And 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, yeah, cool, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, just don't get too near me, don't breathe on me. Yes.
Yeah, exactly, totally.
Thank you.
No worries.
Well, that's it. We're just about finished. We've run over, Jodie, but thank you so much for joining us. You're an absolute inspiration. Oh. And, you know, it's exactly what we teach our presenters to do. You knuckle down. I know that you're going to be as big as, if not bigger than, Davina. I've got one more challenge for you, and I do this with all my presenters.
Oh, I love it. I could talk to you all day, don't worry.
Before we go, I'm going to put you on the spot here because Brian always does it. Will you come back and talk to us again?
Yes! Oh my God, I thought you were going to give me a game or something there. I was getting all excited. Oh my God, absolutely 100%. And I just saw someone wrote in the chat there. I think it was John Higgins. Thanks very much. Thank you very much. And thank you to everybody that's replying in that. If there are any final questions, I'm happy to stay on. By the way, don't worry if there is. I don't want anybody coming on and not getting their question or anything like that.
Well, I've got a little Scottish question for you. Sorry, I know everybody asks you, but I just thought I would give you a little bit home from home. So it's called This or That. I do it with a lot of guests that I have. Oh, Sarah's just come on. Sarah, sorry.
Sorry, I have a quick question, but you can go first.
Oh, right. Sarah.
Go for it.
Sorry, Sarah.
Sorry. Yeah, I was just wondering about kind of starting out, and you were saying like maybe get in touch with local people for interviews. But do you find that difficult if it's not necessarily going anywhere? If there's not a platform for it to go on?
Well, that's the thing. But you know, there's YouTube, there's Instagram, you can create your own platform. So it doesn't matter if it is just going to go on YouTube, if it is just going to, you know, I guess sometimes if you're reaching out to someone, you know, that's more of a celebrity and they've got an agent and a PR, they'll be like, well, where does this go? And then it can be difficult because it's not necessarily going to somewhere. So that's where it's good to kind of start kind of smaller and maybe reach out to people directly and ask them, because a lot of the time if you reach out to somebody who might be kind of a celebrity or whatever, if you kind of cut out their agent a little bit, and the agents would kill me for saying this, but you kind of cut them out and go to them directly, they might be like, do you know what, yeah, I want to help that person wants to start out and they want to talk to me, so yeah. So sometimes maybe just cut out the middleman if it is just going to go on your YouTube or whatever. But you know, if you've got a YouTube channel or Instagram, that's your own platform, that's your own broadcast channel to put things out. So never be discouraged because it's not necessarily going on television. Just still go and do it. Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much.
Great stuff. So I thought I'd ask you a few things. People probably won't realise what half these things unless you're from Scotland, but I wanted to ask you this or that. Would you rather Iron Brew or ginger beer?
Oh, Iron Brew, 100%, hands down. Not even a question. Not even a question.
I struggle to get it in London. Sometimes I can't find it anywhere.
Do you know what? Oh, am I still here? Yeah. Do you know what I struggle to get? I struggle to get Iron Brew Extra, which is basically the Pepsi Max version or the like Coke Zero version. I struggle to get that, and it just seems to be full fat Iron Brew here, and I'm like, oh, or diet, and I don't like diet. I do like full fat, but obviously I can't have full fat all the time. It's not good for you. But I don't like the diet version. I like the Iron Brew Extra, which is basically like probably full of aspartame, but it's the best version. So I don't struggle to get Iron Brew, but I struggle to get the particular type of Iron Brew that I like. But I do love it. It's the best thing ever.
And what about haggis, mince and tatties or stovies?
Oh, I don't know. I'd probably stovies because my grand's stovies are the absolute best.
Oh, it was always the best, is it?
It's home cooking, isn't it?
And what about porridge or a Scottish fry-up?
Oh, fry-up, 100%. It's always the unhealthy option.
And finally, a Tunnocks tea cake or a caramel log?
I've got both of them in my cupboard. Always a tea cake. Always a tea cake. I find the caramel logs a wee bit too sweet, a wee bit too chewy, and they just make, I don't know. I much prefer a tea cake. I could probably eat 6 tea cakes in a row. With a caramel log, I could only eat one because I find them quite like too sweet almost. Actually,
Yeah, definitely the tea cake.
Controversial.
And how do you eat yours? Do you peel the sort of white bit off first? Do you
I open the tea cake, and then I always say that I'm going to do it that way, but I end up just firing it all in, to be honest with you. That's kind of what happens with it.
You know what? That's the only way that I was going to give blood, is because they give you a tonic tea cake. I mean, it's like very expensive to give blood, is it?
I know, I mean, it still wouldn't, I mean, I'm still too much of a baby to do that, but I mean, they gave you that and an iron brew, maybe I could be swayed.
There we go. We'll get in touch with them. Well, thank you so much. Give Jodie a round of applause, and make sure you keep in touch with her. What's your Twitter handle again? Is it Jodie Presents?
At Jodie Presents on Twitter and Instagram. So it's JODIE and then Presents. Follow me. Please keep in touch. Follow me. Keep in touch. And if you DM me and I don't get back to you right away, it's not because I'm rude. It's just because I've got a lot going on. But you can voice note now on Instagram DM, so that's quite good, because I normally will just send a voice note because it's quicker and better for my thumbs. But I'm really humbled that you asked me to be on here. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. I can't believe you all got up so early to come and listen to me talk a lot of nonsense, but I really appreciate it, and I'm really humbled. So thank you all, and just keep going, and you will get there and you will achieve your dreams.
And of course, a replay of this will be going up on our members area. If you're not already a members area, go to www.tvtrainingacademy.com/members. We've just actually got a new website done, and it's not launched yet, but that's all going to be changing. But we'll send everybody an email. And thanks very much, Jodie.
Oh, thanks, guys. Lots of love. Have a good day. See you later.